Good evening, ladies and gents, wherever you may be around the world, and welcome to Splendid Isolation number 174. Okay, I think that's all it's done. Sorry guys, just doing my boomer tech as I do. Yeah, I got a special guest this week. As people who follow me know, I like all dogs and a fair number of humans. And my very good friend Aubrey has a 16-year-old and 7-month-year-old dog called Jasper, who is her avatar at the moment. And he's one of the keenest brains in dogdom. And thought I would get him to make a special appearance on the stream, as he is my favorite dog these days, since I sadly lost Rudy some months ago. Aubrey, yeah, can you get Jasper to give us a little sing?
Can you sing, Jasper? Hey, sing. Sing. You're going to hear me sounding like dog. Sing. Gaspy. Oh, great. Nope. Sing. Come on, sing. Oh my gosh, he's not going to do it. Don't you just love animals and children never doing what they're supposed to? Can you sing, Jasper? Sing. Come on, sing. Oh my God. Okay, well, we could do his song. Do you want that?
Got stage fright.
Yeah, I guess so. Jasper, come on, sing.
Yeah, Adam is going to try and join us, which I very much hope he manages to do. But yeah, I think he's got stage fright already.
Yeah, I think he's afraid of me following him around with my computer.
I would imagine so. He's probably saying, what on earth is she doing?
Probably. Jasper, this is your opportunity. It's showtime. Ready? Okay, I could play his video.
Yeah, all right, babes. You play his video. Yep.
All right, here he is.
Okay, we're going to sing. Okay, ready? Happy birthday to you. Sing. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Big finish? Sing. I love you.
That's it. That is his new song. So
very cool, babes.
Yeah.
As to the audience, look, guys, I'm pretty soppy where dogs are concerned. So,
Unfortunately, I had to mute it on my end because my dog was going to get upset about.
Oh no!
He was getting upset, so I just started to mute it. He probably thought there was a dog running around the house somewhere.
Mitch is in the chat, and I would just like to say, Mitch, please come on, mate, because we are going to talk about that demo. So yeah, I'd like you to come on, Mitch. That would be cool. And
Bass Tommy.
Yeah. Look, I totally agree with what Morgoth said on Twitter, on X, where he basically said, the shame of it is that there are all these non-British flags in the crowd, and not just the Israeli flag, but I mean, there were Iranian flags and Palestinian flags and it's just craziness. The only flags there should have been those of England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, plus, of course, the Union flag. They're the only ones that really should have been there.
I mean, I would disagree with Davey. There were a significant number of Israeli flags. The old Iranian imperial flag for pre-revolution, and also a significant number of American flags. And I've been watching, along with many in our circles, Adam Curtis documentaries.
Yeah,
And one thing that's quite interesting in that, especially the Mayfair set, is you see the traditional right in that sort of post-war period, especially around from the 50s to the 70s. And when you see that iteration of the right, you can see where like Richard Hilton and people like that were all coming from, like what their perception is, and this current like patriotic right that we're meant to believe is it's just not that. It's something like I mean it's kind of, well, it's kind of like an astro. It's about as astroturfed as what Greta Thunberg and other people like that you know were about all those years ago. So like BLM, it's like right wing version of BLM. It's just not genuine,
yeah, look,
But there are a lot
as far as I'm concerned, if you're going to do a British patriotic demonstration, and don't get me wrong, I am happy to see that it was so big. I'm glad that there were so many people there. Britain's not dead yet, but it shouldn't have foreign flags there. We just shouldn't. I mean, I'll be honest, I wouldn't really object if there was an Australian flag or a Canadian flag or something like that. Fair enough. I've got no problem with that. But there shouldn't be foreign flags there. And certainly not like Zionist flags and what have you. Just shouldn't be going.
I mean, outside I would accept the Rhodesian flag, of course.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
or the old South African flag. I would not have an objection to that.
No. I mean, I'd even accept the Fiji flag. There you go. That's my radical position.
I'll be honest. Look, if someone wanted to fly an American flag, I'm not really going to object to that, to be honest. But I don't really see what it's got to do with Israel, to be honest, or even British Jewish people, because presumably if you're a British Jewish person, you should like the Union flag. That's my view anyway.
Can't comment.
Exactly. Yeah, well, we're on YouTube, mate. We're on YouTube. Yeah. But yeah, I just don't think there should. I don't think there should be totally foreign flags in that crowd. And we all know where some of Tommy Robertson's funding comes from. So
I mean, all patriotic movements has to draw strength and belonging from self and the community, and I don't think Tommy's big thing is obviously the what's been called the counter-jihad rights, and nothing that the grooming gangs and what his what the EDL and back in the day. I mean, nothing like that is incorrect in principle, but when if your aim is to because what I get from him is Britain is currently being taken over by it's been ruined by the Islamists, and we want Britain to return to like ignorant bliss where we had like liberal because he's quite stated liberal multiculturalism is his ideal sense of being. And the thing there is I think he does know this, but I think there's a lot of bad play at this, but what he's doing is effectively trying to rehabilitate the worst aspects of liberalism. And people in our circles, people like Bowden back in the day, stepped over liberalism. He stepped over that sort of what you would call moral syphilis, because at the end of the day, no matter which angle, no matter how you try and frame it, reframe it, worry about optics, at the same time, no matter what you try and do with your movie, if you just try and go by that sort of way of thinking, you're just doomed for failure. You're doomed for failure because you don't have anything strong of foundation and you can easily end up being co-opted. I mean, when when I look at what people saying, well, why does the flags makes a difference? It's like, well, at the end of the day, I'm not going to talk about that people because we're on YouTube, but let's talk about the Iranian lot there. At the end of the day, if you were to sit them down, gun to the head, not literally YouTube, but you get my expression. If they had a choice between Britain and its people and its civilization, or returning to Iran, overthrowing the Ayatollahs and reinstating the imperial system, I know what they'd go for. I think you lot know what they'd go for, and everyone in chat knows what they would go for. And that's the thing. Of course they would, because they're not British. They are Iranian, and they have my deepest sympathies. I don't doubt the Islamic. The Islamic Revolution that happened back in '79 and the reign of terror in the '80s was terrible. I absolutely, lots of innocent people were killed. It turned the country into a nightmare for many. I don't doubt that. But at the same time, a lot of the movements that are surrounding that in America and the West are, it's full of people who are effectively, liberal, pro-Western, pro-Western
lot of
groups.
globalists, a lot of
globalists,
in there,
a lot of globalists indeed, who promote the worst aspects that have affected and are anti-traditional. And this is the thing: is you may think you'll be fighting for a traditionalist cause, whether it be reinstating the Iranian monarchy, or in many of the patriots who were there. And I don't doubt. I'm not saying that the hundreds of thousands of people went to London today are liberal, left wing, and everything. I don't think a lot of them are. I think a lot of them just don't understand and don't know.
I think most of them were genuine patriots.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, is that those sorts of movements are just easily co-opted as a way of the counter-jihad, and we need to move away from counter-jihad. I mean, I've always stated that, and I've lived in a country which is half Muslim, half Christian. Muslims, the only positive thing that you can say is that there is, especially the ones in this country, but also overseas, is there's a strong ethnocentric behavior about them, that they end up sticking to their own. And while, yes, they move into area and other groups move out, it would be worse if they were, really, really going to town of, like integrating. If they actually made an effort into integrating, because that would be more chaotic. That would create even more problems. But if they're self-segregating themselves and all that, I mean, it's not, it's not like disastrous, but it is disastrous when it comes to the communities on the ground that have been affected with grooming gangs and other things like that. It has been.
I mean, look at
I don't disagree
right now and what's happening there. They're not assimilating into our country. That's the problem. And I lived through 9/11 here in the US, and yeah, so I guess I have a little bit of a different view on the Muslim thing, but
look, don't mistake what AI was saying, Aubrey. I mean, I know for a fact that AI is not in favor of Islamic immigration into the UK. The point is, who was it who originally encouraged Islamic immigration into the UK, and indeed Islamic immigration into the US? Who was it who did that? Well, you don't have to look very far, and they're the same.
I mean, you have
who today are saying we should start a war in the Middle East for Israel. They're the same people.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to look at the groups that are most ardent, because they don't usually say, "Oh, we're for Islamic immigration," because that's not how they say it. You have to look at, like, who are the individuals or the groups or the NGO networks that say, we need more We need more brown and black faces. We need more of this. We need greater diversity.
More diversity.
Yeah,
More
the
diversity.
population is collapsing. Don't you know? We need these people to work in the sort of lower sectors. We need these people to pay for pensions in the future. I mean, this is you know and I mean I think for I mean on the American thing, I mean I guess the Islamic population in America is quite low compared to Europe. From my understanding, it's
But
quite
it's growing
significantly less.
very rapidly.
Yeah,
It's growing rapidly.
it is.
Yeah, it's growing
I mean, even
rapidly.
if I don't know if you ever saw that Borden bankrupt thing where he took the economic migrant route from Central America up through from South America up through Central America and into the US. There were quite a lot of Islamic people on that route that even he saw, Now, the question is, how do they get the money to get from the Middle East to South America to even get on that route? Where do they get the money from?
So my college campus was all about diversity. I went to a Jesuit college or university, I guess, and it was all about diversity. So we had, Muslims, everybody in my classes, and I mean, it was a little interesting. I had never been exposed to very many different cultures, but I have a friend who grew up in Jordan, and she told me stories about what it's actually like over there in the Muslim countries, and especially as a female, and it's not pleasant. It really is not pleasant. It's I don't know.
Yeah, look, I mean, don't get us wrong.
Everyone, of course.
No one who is a friend of mine is going to be a friend to Islamic immigration. We're not. The trouble is that the counter-jihad movement, which is what AI was talking about, tends to just focus on that rather than other aspects, shall we say, that are also destroying our societies.
Well, didn't it used to be that the people? Didn't it used to be that the people we allowed into at least our country, that you had to apply and you had to have something that you brought forward into the country, like you were a doctor or an attorney, or you had some type of, I don't know,
not
building
true anymore and hasn't been
something like that. But we're not assimilating. No, nobody's assimilating into our country. Nobody's pledging allegiance to our country. And I think liberalism has made it all about the rights of the individual and not what's best for the majority. And that's the problem at the root of it.
Yeah, sure. I don't disagree with any of that. I think that's entirely true. But yeah, I mean, Tommy Robinson, Stephen Yaxley Lennon, as everyone knows is his real name. What I did see was that Carl Benjamin, Sargon of Akkad, was at that demonstration. What do you think about that one,
AI? Yeah, I mean, doesn't surprise me. I mean, Carl has always been in that orbit of the counter-jihad as well. He's always been in that orbit of people. I think Carl is. I don't know if he still describes himself as a liberal anymore.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't now. AI. He's actually turned around and said that liberalism has failed.
Okay.
This was one reason I was slightly surprised to see him there, because he's actually come quite a long way over the last year or two. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'm just asking what your opinion of him being there was, really.
I mean, I think he's, he is in the sort of the counter-jihad movement. I think, some people. I think some people, when they're in there, a lot of them don't struggle to, I don't want to say see the bigger picture, but see a different angle they struggle to think about it in a sort of different way. I mean, if you were to sit him down and ask him, what do when you saw all like the American and Iranian, imperial Iranian flags and all the foreign flags on display there, and just say, well, it doesn't seem like a very patriotic or I mean, let's be honest, nationalistic party, or gathering. But then again, I don't think he would even describe himself. Oh, it's not national; it's just ordinary English working lads, or so. He would probably say something like that. So I don't. I mean, I don't really know. I don't really understand what his. I don't really understand the Lotus Eaters, like what their thing is, because they go from like AA level circles to like Liz Truss.
Yeah.
It's quite a broad spectrum that they cover across. It could be that they're just going just sort of doing they don't they have their own sort of views, but they keep it to themselves, or they are that they're sort of more mainstream. They just sort of become a bit more mainstream. Who knows? But at the end of the day, I I think Carl. I listened to his speech. It was a 7-minute speech, and it kind of felt, I think he just likes the idea of a sort of Trumpian energy in the UK. I think that's his sort of game. But the problem is, even with Trump, maybe the Trump campaign forgets about it. But I remember back right at the start that it wasn't founded on like blacks for Trump or Hispanics or any of this. It was founded on a quite a nativist platform of America First. It was very nativist. It was very confrontational with neocons and all that, and that's how it was.
Right. Even the Republican Party was not backing him. I mean, they were opposed to him even getting involved.
Yeah, I mean, Aubrey, I don't know if you remember, but I believe even people. I mean, the campaign was even flirting with like people who had been excommunicated near enough from the pump, like Pat Buchanan and people like that. From the back in the day. It was from many Trump from the America First crowd that I first heard about people like Sam Francis and Pat Buchanan.
Pat Buchanan was the best president America ever had. If he'd have been, he would have been a damn good American president, actually. But yeah, I mean, going on his writings, etc., which I've read a fair amount.
I mean, the permanent bureaucracy and the lobbyists of the government would never allow that. He would definitely get the Kennedy treatment and a bit extra.
Yeah, very likely. Mitch, how are you going, mate? You're muted, Mitch.
Sorry?
Maybe. How are you going, Mitch?
Same old, same old.
What's your view on the Tommy Robinson demo in London? I mean, and let me.
I haven't. Well, I don't
make clear. I fully support the fact there were so many people there. I think most of the people at the demo were probably good people. Yeah. I'm not so sure about Tommy Robinson himself, who definitely seems to have some outside funding and what have you.
Well, yeah, that's a popular thing. Well, is the fact that we have. I mean, I suppose the closest thing we've got is Homeland Party, but it's going to be years away before we get anything like the support that Tommy Robinson currently enjoys. So I'm just thinking this is a black pill, to be honest. The fact that Tommy Robinson is still so popular because, well, yeah, he's the only one with a public enough profile. I mean, essentially,
I don't think you could blame the normies. Mitch, I don't think you can blame the normies because they just don't know. They don't. They see him and they don't see many other people. But
Yeah, sure,
then
but
you
I
get
mean-
the
I mean-
mainstream media who just say it was a load of football hooligans, which of course it wasn't.
I mean,
But,
the other thing I'd say, Mitch, is if you were to get like a decent, if you got the crowd and you like got them looking over or listening to anyone from the Homeland Party, like any of their posts or something, I reckon quite a few would agree with it. Maybe not like the certain like the Zionist and the Shah contingency, but I think a good percentage would agree. It's just it's just not public knowledge. I mean, I saw on Twitter somebody who is some complete rando normie, nothing to do with the demo, saw them protesting and was like, "Oh, what's this about?" And it was like, "Oh, it's probably some sort of pro-genocide protest." So, I mean, in normie world, I mean, they're in normie world, they're completely in fantasy land, or off the charts in fantasy land. So, yeah.
yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at all, actually.
But
But
the
on
one thing that
the other
Mitch,
hand, to take a white pill out of it, the fact that they could get so many thousands of people marching through London is pretty good, I guess, because I think most of them are probably basically good people.
the only thing that I think Mitch, you said it on Twitter, which has sort of that I agree with, because I've been finding the increase in like Iranian royalist activity in right-wing spaces or patriotic spaces in America, in the UK, in the Anglo-speaking countries, rather odd. And I think it was you who said that this could be like a way for them to normalize war with Iran in the future.
Sure.
That this is like a way of like getting white boys on side for this. Of course, we know that if there was a war with Iran and there was a invasion, and after all the deaths and people unnecessary deaths, that if any like pro-Western, any Western-backed regime installed, it wouldn't be like a monarchy or anything. It would be like some corrupt gangster handpicked by the West, So.
True.
Mitch?
Yeah, so which I don't know. I mean, it's like I don't know, like us cooing Iran or blowing Iran to pieces to install a government of Iran is a much different kettle of fish nowadays compared to what it would have been back in 1953 or 1954 coup we did over to get Iran to sell oil to us at a discount or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Much different kettle of fish these days. So that's why, I don't know. As a that's a black pill to be had is the fact that Tommy Robinson is still so popular because at the end of the day, sure, yeah, we're all over the internet. There's no sort of Homeland Party and everyone just formed up. It's going to be bloody ages away before all those before those Tommy lads come over to our side. So that's a black pill to be had from my perspective of this is the fact that we're still miles away from getting back. Because I mean, it's like the same with you get those polls saying, "Oh well, most Zoomers when they vote Labour," and I go, "Of course," because on the first part of polls, the Tories dominate the right-wing Labour, and because the Tories basically treat this country like a care home with nukes, we're never going to get Zoomers voting right-wing anytime soon, unless you had PR. The Tories gone, and something like Homeland ascending up a hierarchy, ascending up in terms of clout. So
yeah, and with a straight face, I mean, I've had conversations with people my age and younger, who generally look at like Swetha Braverman, however you pronounce it, and Kemi Badenoch, and say they're like they want to institute push a fascistic regime in Britain, and it's like, you know, and this is like what Mitch is saying. This is blackpilling because these people, I mean, not that I'm not angry that it's, you know, it's not true or true. It's just that these people, the Sikh people, are so balls deep in liberal bullshit. You know, it's just like, just launch the nukes, now. Just have it done with.
Well, we may come on to that in a little while, AI. But before we move on to other subjects, AI, was there a first subject you wanted to bring up this evening?
Well, let's see. Actually, sticking with you know, the Carl Benjamin Lotus Eaters, I thought I would maybe bring up the interview that Connor Tomlinson, I think his name is, did with on the Lotus Eaters with former Prime Minister Liz Truss.
Okay, do go ahead.
So, I mean, the story is not so much the content, because the content in the interview is basically how you imagine it. It's not, you know, nothing of an insightful information as such. The only thing is that we learn is basically what we already saw at the time was the Bank of England effectively got rid of her because you know, she wasn't their person, or she did something that she went rogue from the script. But I guess the story is the you know, you know, the way that you know, we see how communication is so quickly you know, controlled, and we look at the Lotus Eaters and Carl Benjamin and his crowd, and you know, we're a smaller channel, but we have significant people on here. We have people like Morgoth and co. And
We get some pretty good people on here, I think, from time to time.
Yeah, we have Morgoth, we have Endeavour, we have the occasional communist dipshit as well, from time to time. And
not for long, mate. Not for long. Not for long.
But of course, you know, and so, but of course, in the media's mind, we're the furthest in sort of like Andrew Marr's world, the furthest to the right that you can possibly get, like the depths, as they could, so they always sort of refer to it as like the depths or the gutter or the extreme fringes. However, you know, they sort of think the frontier of political discussion, all these sorts of shitty buzzwords, is the Lotus
Farage,
Eaters.
pretty much. It's I think it's pretty much Farage, even, to be honest. But yeah, okay.
Well, no, because I think the Lotus Eaters is in that it's a bit even more further than Farage, and it goes to what Mitch was saying earlier, why you go the Homeland Party and why it's blackpilling, is effectively that the establishment allows Lotus Eaters and that to be within the political paradigm, and there's one power that we talk about, is that of course the regime like to invoke, you know, mid-century German and the mid-century party, you know, as a point of reference, right? We all understand
constantly.
Yeah, but there is one other power that the regime can do, and that's equally as effective, and they don't take, it's just non-acknowledgement. And one thing you can do is you can do a non-acknowledgement. Now, the Homeland Party, I would reckon if they were to win, just to say they win like a council by-election, like the first council by-election, I doubt it would. I don't think it would be mentioned. In fact, the only people who mention people on the fringe beyond Lotus Eaters is usually just, it's the only ones is Hope Not Hate. There is nobody. There's no other organisation in UK that will mention people like Morgoth or anything in mainstream publication.
And Hope Not Hate are, of course, an extreme left-wing NGO. Just for anyone who doesn't know, but yeah, carry on.
And and so I mean, from I guess the story is that the Lotus Eaters is on the spectrum in the political discussion for the establishment. They have their I don't understand AA's because I don't understand wrestling. I don't know if it's babyface or part of the kayfabe, but they have their position in the ecosystem there. And I guess the question that we have is, or the question that Homeland Party and is obviously, do we want to enter it? Carl wanted to. I think the Lotus Eaters' aims, the way that they wanted to do it was, well, if we can enter the political discussion, we can filter people, we can filter content like Morgoths, like AAs, like that, through us into the mainstream. I think that was a big part of his doing. But the problem is that the regime, it's the establishment itself, is so tightly knitted that you end up, if once you're in, you can't get out, and so you're kind of forced to simulate it. And I think that has happened. To a certain degree, I think there is element of self-censorship on certain topics. I think there is, that they've
AI. Look, we self-censor on this platform because we have to. Because if we didn't, we would be removed from this platform.
We self-censor, but we also, I mean, we do come up with creative terms to get around it as well.
Hopefully.
We come up with creative terms to get around it. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, the story itself is that it went sort of viral. I think the interview, you had Jess Phillips, who's a Labour MP in this country, who brought up the old controversy with Carl is that he said he wouldn't even.
Hang on, AI. I'm so sorry to interrupt you again, mate, but I have to say I saw a great tweet on Twitter. Somebody said, "Don't look back in anger." Yes.
I wanted to send a tweet. There was one tweet I wanted to send, but I thought I don't want to do it because this probably, if there was one tweet to get me banged up, this one might be the one. Which was basically, calm down, Jodie Foster. So I didn't want to send that one.
For anyone who doesn't know in the chat, whenever some Islamic terrorist blows up a load of little girls at a concert or something like that, they get the parents to go to a thing afterwards where they all sing "Don't Look Back in Anger," for people being blown to smithereens. But apparently Jess Phillips can't get over some nasty words. So.
Yeah, and that became a whole thing, and then there was like deliberate misreporting, saying that Liz Truss, there was one point that it was being presented that Liz Truss was on the podcast talking to Carl, who mentioned, "Oh yeah, I wouldn't even molest Jess Phillips," and
can't say that word, mate. You gotta be careful.
What, molest?
You know the word that you were replacing.
That's why I said that.
Well done.
Yeah, that's why I know there's those sorts of words. So that's that became a whole story, and of course you had the usual like gig men, left wing, right wing commentators coming out saying how appalling this was. I think even it went to like Rishi Sunak level. It became a part of the whole election thing. Oh yeah, that's the other thing, because I've been away so long. There's been an election called. Everything is going off at the moment, and Labour's going to have.
We may get onto that. Mate.
Labour's going to have their 500 seat majority, and it's going to be awesome.
I don't think it will be awesome, but anyway, whatever.
Well,
I think it'll be far from awesome, but anyway, we'll see. Yeah. Mitch, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I mean, Lotus Eaters. I mean, I mean, I probably might subscribe to them, but that's just because you got that Dan fella, that Brokenomics.
Yeah, I like Dan. He's pretty good. Yeah, Dan's pretty.
Yeah,
I mean,
good.
to be
And
honest,
also, I
watched the history.
I quite like Bo, the history guy. He's pretty good.
The only thing I watch consistently on Lotus Eaters is their history thing. To be honest,
Dan's pretty good AI. The economics dude. He's not bad at all. Actually, I quite like him.
Yeah, it's like you get a handful. You got Sargon, I suppose Connor Tomlinson, but I mean, I might listen to him going to the Rebel Boomers more than anything else.
I don't mind when he goes to like former Soviet republics and bit places in Eastern Europe. He's quite interesting when he does that, I guess.
Yeah, but he's left, so you won't see seeing any more Callum from Lotus Eaters. In terms of like, as I said, like Lotus Eaters, I mean, you got Bo, Dan, Sargon, Harry Robinson, and Connor Tomlinson, but the latter is a bit limited because I mean, he's basically like he's very much like a Tory Catholic, and I got my views about Catholicism, shall we say? I'm not. I don't know.
I've got my views about the Tory parties.
Yeah, I got my views about the Tory party for sure. So-called,
and I think that's why a lot of people in the sort of right in our circles are very skeptical of the Lotus Eaters because of the latter person mentioned, and that I do wonder if there's been like a internal friction of one person dragging Lotus Eaters one way to the center and others saying, well, no, we need to stick on brand and remain where we are, where we're sort of on the
I think there is an argument, AI, that things like the Lotus Eaters are a gateway. They're a way that normies can find their way kind of in our direction. I think there is an argument for that, and I think to some degree that's true.
Yeah, what I would say about Lotus Eaters is like, I think like Tufa kind of said best when he said, oh yeah, technically there's no editorial, like Sargon pretty much lets his contributors have a lot more autonomy of what they say, just so long as they don't say anything that gets them into legal trouble. He doesn't mind. So you get like that Stelios Greek fella who's like a full-on classical liberal. I don't know what he's on meant to be. He doesn't say anything interesting. Alongside that other fella who looks a bit Greek, and then then you've got Harry Robinson who is. I reckon there's some power level he's got where he doesn't say it out loud, but he keeps it to himself while he's in there. But it also
he gets it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
so
say
he's
no,
on our
he
side.
gets it. Yeah, he gets
it.
it.
And then you got Connor Tomlinson, Tory Catholic, who, I have to wonder. You often get like Sargon's endorsing with 0 seats, but then he's got a Tory party member. It seems a bit. I said, like, I mean, I'm one of Lotus Eaters. I mean, I'm not against it really, but I just think, I know he's got a point where he says, "Oh, they haven't got a well-defined sense of mission. They're just there. Just like they discuss a lot of things, which they can be discussed. Like for example, that Dan said, I don't know, he's helping me to understand. Oh yeah, the economy's pretty screwed for my generation as well as Gen Alpha, and I've got to make a peace with invest in crypto or whatever. And then you got Connor Tomlinson, who also.
I'll just point out. Adaman in the chat. Oh, I hope he's going to join us if he's feeling well enough. He said he met Robinson at the last Witten and had breakfast with him, and actually he's suitably based. So yeah.
I refuse to believe that Tommy Robinson.
Prepared. I don't think he meant Tommy Robinson.
Oh no, sorry, he meant how? Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah,
So, I was going to say, Ataman, what got into you?
No. I've known Ataman for years now, and Ataman's a pretty base man and my friend, so I know he wouldn't come out with something like that. So,
I do doubt that Tommy Robinson would go to the Witan anyway. I don't think he would go to that.
he's talking about Harry Robinson, is what he was talking about. So
Yeah. Okay.
But Mitch, did you have a first subject you wanted to talk about today?
I mean, you have just a general election campaign, which do we... I mean, I think I said it best on Twitter a few days back when I said this election just proves we're just a care home with nukes. Like, that's literally what the country is. I mean, you have Sam Ashworth Hayes fellow on the Daily Telegraph who wrote an article saying we're essentially just a boomerocracy and we're getting screwed over because of that. And of course, the Telegraph, its main reader base are all boomers. So you can imagine what the comment section looked like at this millennial chap saying, "Oh yeah, you boomers are one of the main reasons why we miss mess," and
Listen, Adam, and I've seen your postings on the Discord, etc., and I totally agree with you. But I would just say one thing that I think needs to be reiterated. Like, you can go right back to the 1960s and Enoch Powell, and a huge number of those boomers who were the main people around them, were absolutely against mass immigration. You will remember Laura Towler, which is going to segue us into something I want to talk about in a minute. You will remember Laura Towler did her campaign, "We Were Never Asked," and we weren't. And all of those people who didn't want mass immigration into Britain, and that was always the majority of real Anglo-Celtic Brits, they weren't asked. And they were ignored when they expressed that they didn't want mass immigration. So to that tiny degree, I would push back against what you're saying, but only to that small degree. Otherwise, I think you're totally right. My father was able to buy.
That's the thing.
My dad was able to buy a
mass
house
immigration
in London
because they're told
a couple of thousand.
We have to
quid,
artificially inflate GDP in order to pay for all the boomer pensions. The thing is,
I agree, mate. Yeah, I do agree. Like I said, I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong, because it's not. But a lot of those boomers, certainly 50 years ago or 40 years ago, they didn't support mass immigration. But the thing was, what they said was just ignored. The conservatives, in air quotes, because they're not conservatives and don't conserve anything, would come out every election and say, "Oh, we're going to cut immigration," and they never would. But let us also remember the biggest, opening of the floodgates of mass immigration happened under Tony Blair. It did.
Yeah, Tony Blair, born in the late 40s, so there's plenty.
Exactly.
So that's a problem. So the Tory party, they're doing all the mass immigration, they accelerated even more, because the thing was, they were told, look, so the boomers who vote for the Tory party, because something like 85% of boomers vote for the Tory party. Now, and of course, the Tory party gear the economy to suit the boomers at our expense. Because you look at the way the economy is structured. What are the two main expenses for the economy? NHS and pensions. Well, the NHS, mainly that's the boomers, because the problem is a lot of these boomers live by themselves. That's unfortunately the individualism of our society. So you've got a situation where by the time that these elderly people have their issues, let's say they need a hip replacement, but it's really late by the time they discover they need it, because they don't have anyone to look after them, or they get put in a care home where no one actually cares for them, so to speak. If you're going off a lax standards, what's going to happen? Because you often give this propaganda bit, we have to loosen care home hiring standards to import mass immigration, basically to gateway for immigration that way. So yeah, that's one main reason why the NHS bill is so heavy, is because the elderly don't really get cared after in our society.
I think also it's what.
Sorry.
Sorry, Mitch, carry on.
I was going to say, on one hand, the boomers they are a problem, but it's also our individualism as a society is why. And, like, some problems aren't really the boomers for, like, oh yeah, they can't help the fact they get old and they're going to need hip replacements or whatever. And so by the time their health issues are really flagged up, the surgeries to help with those health issues skyrocket compared to, let's say, if it was found on day one, if they were taken care of by a loving family and so on.
One thing I would say, and I think this is you talk about the competency crisis in the West and the collapse of, of our cities, and just a collapse of everything, social cohesion, all that. And I think one thing that is maybe, I was thinking about it today on my walk, but the people who are the governing us here in the UK, not just in politics, but in the in the banking sector, in all sorts of nodes of power, and in America, are people who are outspent their time. We are you have that the boomer generation effectively holding on and to the power, and it's they're not able to react to the modern world in any sort of capacity. And that's why you have, so someone said in chat here, it's like, well, the attitude, well, I'm going to be dead soon, so it doesn't really matter. And it's, well, if you have that leadership of your country like that, this is why you have no vitality. And then any society needs to have that sort of strength and vitality about it. And really, I think, I know Ashman jokes about the day of the pillow, but there will have to be the day soon where that power is handed to the next generation, but they're not doing it. And
I'd just like to say something. First of all, Ruffian Dick, great name, because that's Sir Richard Francis Burden, who was a great British army officer and explorer, and also linguist and writer. He was a most interesting dude. So that's a good name. But look, I would just say the boomers are like everybody else. They vary. There are good ones and bad ones. All right. There's a lot of bad ones. Don't get me wrong. Yes, there are. But my father didn't look at the world, and my father wasn't a boomer, by the way. I often forget this because I'm quite old. My father was silent generation, because he was born in 1933. And he did not have that attitude at all. His attitude was, yeah, I've got kids, and they're gonna. And also, he eventually became a grandfather, and like he was looking at what was going to happen to those people. So, not all of these older people are like this. I just think that this all boomers are bad is pretty bloody stupid. I mean, yeah, there's a load of bad boomers. There are. He
wasn't a boomer though. So
no, he wasn't a boomer. But you know what? I've known boomers who were not all bad. Like if I'd have been born 5 years earlier, I'd have been a bloody boomer, and I certainly don't agree with that way of thinking at all. But
I do think there is something to the problem, is that there is that there is that thing that they are when it comes to the governing aspect, is that the fact that them being in problem, them remaining in power for longer than any other generation before has, I think that is a problem in sort of like the in the competency crisis argument. I mean, yeah, okay, they're all still elites and everything. I think one of the biggest fears that they've got now is because they have held on for so long is we talk about post-war narratives. As the generations go on, that those arguments and those tools of persuasion will become less and less effective, and that's almost a guarantee.
I think Morgoth was right what he said last week when he was on this stream last week, that what the boomers should be scared of is that you're going to get a Labour government who might well turn around and say, if these people are old, we should just get rid of them. And you'll end up with voluntary and not so voluntary euthanasia. I think that's very likely to happen. And my problem is that some of the younger people on here, like yourself, Mitch, and like you, AI, and like almost everybody's younger than me, but you get a lot of younger people who turn around and almost seem to be supporting that, which I actually think, if it came to their own parents, wouldn't, because actually we on the right are the good people,
Okay, the thing is, right, so the boomer generation, you have to accept that they really did squander what was a cohesive society. That was the main problem. I'm not talking about socially, because, well, they did support the sexual revolution, but I don't think they had it in intention into what Zoomers are now. Like, I love my generation, so I can't really blame them for what Zoomers are like now. So I'm not blaming for that aspect. My main aspect is economically, the society the boomers had, let's say in the 70s, in terms of you could buy a house on a year's worth of salary as a milkman or whatever. Yep. Nowadays, you could. I will never see that economy in my lifetime, because the boomers just squandered it. That's why my generation has a lot of hatred for the boomers.
All right, Mitch. Let me put this to you, mate. Let me put this to you. The main reason that is not true anymore, and the main reason that house prices are so ridiculous today, and why everything is so gummed up, whether it be the roads or going to see your doctor or going to hospital or whatever it might be, the main reason behind all of those things is mass immigration. If we didn't have mass immigration, there's no real reason why anything along those lines would be all that much worse.
Sorry,
what do you say to that?
Yeah, you could say it for a bit, so I couldn't fully hear what you said. But the thing is, no one disputes mass immigration as one of the main reasons why we miss mess. But at the same time, you also have to realise the boomers, they've had one generation who, when you explain to the average boomer, not all of them, of course, but I don't know why I have to having to say that all the time.
Yeah, not all of them. Thank you, mate. So thank you, Mitch. Thank you.
Yeah, when I say boomers, I'm talking about general. I'm not saying every single one. It's like, I'm not going to say every single Zoomer is bad, because I'm a living example of that not being the case. Just as old millennials aren't really that bad. I'm just saying there's quite a few millennials who are pretty bad. I don't know why I have to do this every time I say I have to make generalizations, because that's the way.
Because we have loads of autistic people watching us, Mitch. We have loads of autistic people watching us, and some of us, including me, are probably a bit autistic. So it's like
made us do so.
Yes, I wonder like how many boomers would. Let's say you told them, okay, well, one of the main reasons why, so their houses these days, they cost peanuts back when they bought them in the 70s or 80s, but now they're worth like nearly $1 million nowadays. If you told them that artificially increased price was down massively to mass immigration, and you told them, oh well, because of the economic conditions, we have no Zoomer or millennials going to be able to buy their own house. I wonder how many boomers do you reckon will fully understand that economic dilemma? Because a lot of them can't easily understand it, because all manner of reasons.
A minority for sure. A minority for sure. A minority. I mean, look, you do get.
Have you engaged with boomers? Lady of Charlotte will also say the same as me.
Yeah, Mitch, I know she will, and I totally agree with her, and I totally agree with you. You will get a lot of boomers who will turn around and say, oh, no, the younger generation, they're just not working hard enough. Whereas they're not looking at, like, the amount of money you can earn in a job has gone down. It's not even stayed level. It's gone very much down at the same time as house prices have, like, gone through the roof, and that's what they're not seeing. Like my father bought a house. Now, it was a shitty Victorian terrace house that was going to be knocked down, and he knew it was going to be knocked down when he bought it. But like, he paid about, I don't know, $2,500 for it. in the 1960s. You know, the idea that you could buy any sort of house or flat or garden shed in London these days for $2.5 grand is just ridiculous.
You
You
can't
know?
even buy a car for that price.
You couldn't buy a box, Aubrey. You know, you just couldn't. But back then, and my dad was an unskilled labourer. You know, he left the British Army, became an unskilled labourer. I mean, he worked hard. He did quite a lot of overtime. He did night work and shift work and all the rest of it. But had he not ended up getting divorced, he would have ended up buying a really nice semi-detached 3-bedroom house in Maidstone in Kent, which in those days was quite a nice place. I'm sure if we had Armand on at the moment, he'd tell me now that Maidstone ain't that great. But back then, in the 60s, it was still a pretty nice place, you know. And people like Mitch and AI have no chance of doing that. No chance at all. Because everywhere is expensive. I mean, you could move to fucking Cumbria, and you won't get a house under 50 grand or something, you know. And can you work there? Can you get to work from there? Well, maybe, but probably not, you know.
Okay, because you keep mentioning your father, but he was born in 1933, I believe. Now, my grandfather was... So my grandfather was born the same year as Prince Philip. Now, in his heyday, he was working as a coal miner, and he was able to afford a 4-bedroom house, 7 kids, a dog, a wife who was a housewife, so they had a single income, and a car, as well as a yearly holiday to Butlins. So on a single income, he was able to afford that. As I said, 7 kids, a dog, a car, and a yearly holiday, as well as a decent house. As I said, you know, there's a reason why his generation are called the greatest generation, because I mean, my granddad went through the Great Depression and the Second World War, so he went through a lot. Not to mention he was a coal miner, so you can imagine his lungs towards the end of his life were
damned hard work, dangerous work. Yeah.
I mean,
So,
I think about the meme. You know, the meme of what is it? It's like a painting or photograph of like a medieval peasant's house, farming peasant's house, in England, and saying, you know, this was like, this is where the peasant lived, and today this is like a, you know, luxury. This is like a millionaire sort of property that could be purchased or something. But I do think of that sort of culture from, you know, particularly from the 80s. I mean, one of the big problems that's been in this country is the fact that foreign nationals have been able to purchase land and property that has been opened up to them. That's been a really big problem, particularly in London, which is something was never allowed, and for good reason. On top of that, yeah, I mean, if you look at the sheer numbers of people who've come to UK, it has been from 97 onwards. It's and particularly under the Tories, and in the last, what was it, 14 years, it has shot up dramatically. It's I mean, Britain. You just have to look at footage of Britain in, you know, 97 on the eve of Blair's win. I mean, it still looks. I mean, it looks pretty good. The comparison, than what we compared it today. I mean, every high street, every provincial town high street, it is dead, or it's full of tacky shops. I mean, England is dead. It's been gutted, and and the problem that you've got for this election is most people have, you know, they go back into the old kayfabe of old Tory or Labour, and, you know, the masses will vote Labour because they have the foolish notion that this will help, that on their sort of thinking process, this will bring about change. It probably won't change that, but You know, at the same time, people have been so so propagandized that there's the other thing we don't talk about, and you know, we talk about the boomers and everything. A lot of the thing we have with the boomers is a lot of things were normalized. A lot of things were normalized for them. So things that they believed, say back in Enoch Powell's day, as you were mentioning, Iron Duke, would a majority of them still believe it still? Would they be frightened, fearful of being called racist, you know, like 20, 30 years on? I mean, yeah, sure, there were plenty who would hold out on their views and everything, but when you have the weight of you know tactics that we've seen being employed in the last century, I think you know I think people's behaviours do change with enough pressure.
Oh yeah, look, everyone has been subject to the most concentrated propaganda that has ever been seen. I mean, the propaganda that people are subjected to today by the mainstream media would put Goebbels or Stalin to shame. You know, they would just put them to shame, and that's obviously true. You know, it just is. Me, I am a racist. If someone calls me a racist, I laugh. You know, I was on Twitter or on X today, and I was getting in an argument because they're going to give one of the 2 British aircraft carriers to a woman captain, and I pointed out on Twitter that this is because she's a woman. It's not because she's the best qualified person to do the job. But of course it's not. And I got called a misogynist and all the rest of it. And yeah, all right, I'm a misogynist, except I'm not, because I actually like women, but I don't like women doing things they're no good at, which is including running warships, you know.
But the problem is you can't talk to these people. I mean, you
can't. You literally
people are not
talk
serious. When you're talking about the defense of the realm or naval defense, these people would, you know, allow any batshit thing to happen if some fucking NGO wonk in a studio somewhere came up with it. If they said to shove fucking condoms up their backside, they would agree with it. You know, these people are just not sensible.
People AI was saying to me, I can't see any reason that just because someone has a vagina, why they can't run a warship. All right, which is ridiculous. And I said, yeah, it's all cool till you get a 7.62 millimeter round in the face, or your warship gets hit by a big anti-ship missile. All of a sudden, everything then changes, you know. And you're not allowed to say it. What these people are basically saying to you is, if you come out with stuff like that, you're a misogynist. You hate women. I don't hate women. I fucking adore women. But I like women who are women, you know? I'm not interested in a woman running a warship. And you'll get people turn around and say, oh, well, she must be the best because how could she get captain of this ship? But the point is, the Royal Navy now has so few warships. Like, we got a whole 15 frigates and destroyers, yeah, and two aircraft carriers. That woman is getting that job 95% at least because she's a woman and for no other reason. And she's been fast-tracked through her whole career for that reason.
Listen,
She's been fast-tracked through her whole career for that reason. Nothing else.
I played paintball one time with a bunch of my guy friends, and I consider myself pretty tough. Oh my god, I hid in a foxhole the entire time because I just kept thinking, like, oh my god, if this was real, if these were real bullets.
Well, the only thing I would say,
they had their like automatic weapons, and they're like.
To make Aubrey sound slightly less ridiculous, she's actually a pretty good shot. But
I am a very good shot, but I didn't know that yet at the time when I played paintball. So,
but to make you sound slightly less ridiculous, Aubrey, you are.
Well, I'm just saying, it's true though. Like girls, I mean, just watching like Full Metal Jacket. with you. Like I was a nervous wreck the entire time. Women, we can't put our emotion aside the same way, and people who say we can are lying. Could I make decisions?
Yeah, much
An
truth.
executive level, yes,
Much truth.
not in battle. And you know what? When my husband, my ex, was over in Afghanistan, I did not want a girl standing next to him on the front lines, having to carry him off of the field, because I don't think she'd be able to do it.
Because she wouldn't have been able to.
No, of course not.
No,
but they
in
were.
the same way that firewood, it's in the same way that, you know, if you're a firewoman and you get into a block of flats and you find some 200-pound grossly obese woman in that flat that's burning, you won't be able to save her if you're a woman, because you won't be able to carry her. You know, you just won't.
Iron Duke, there's a great documentary on Al Jazeera, of all places, on the October 7th attacks here with Hamas and Israel. And it looks at it's from the this one is from the Hamas perspective, because of course the Al Jazeera Arab and all that, and so they have like all the head cam footage, and it shows really like how Hamas were able, because if you all remember, there were several fortification points along the borders with Israel proper and Gaza and Palestine's territory, and then because they managed to break through that, and then they went into Israel itself and into various what they call kibbutz and that festival, and all that happened. And what it showed was you know, because in Israel they have like mixed gender units where you have you know, men and women, and in the documentary it basically shows how these yeah, and this was like 50-50, how everyone was asleep, like they had one fortification and everyone was asleep on guard duty. I don't know, there's a term that you use, Iron Duke, but stag, that's right. Everyone was asleep, and Hamas fighters were talking. They couldn't believe it because they got up right up close and they couldn't believe that, because they were expected to be shot at and everything, and they literally just walked in, started shooting, and butchered all these young girls and boys in their bed. Literally, like in their bed, they were still like lying in bed in barracks. Only a few managed to get out, and it was on. I mean, the body cam footage itself is brutal. I mean, the amount of people who were dead, like, and it must have been hundreds who were in that particular one that were who were killed.
Just to be AI. Sorry to interrupt you, but just to be clear, YouTube, we don't support any violence in the world. This is just reporting on stuff that happened. We do not support any sorts of violence by any group against any other group. Sorry, AI.
Yeah, and it's, you know, and whatever you think of the conflict, or whatever we say about the conflict, we all have our the views on it. But one thing that, you know, looking at that is just how insane, you know, the lack of, and there are people in the audio comments, you know, people like former military people from around the world who were who said they were just screaming at the footage of just like they couldn't believe how the number of mistakes, and in many ways, you know, and I talked about, you know, I talked with you on the stream before about when we watched I watched a British it was a basic training documentary, and again like mixed gender, and the same thing happened where there was a girl who fell asleep on stag, and the trainers managed to sneak up to them in the foxholes, and it was basically bang bang bang, or stab stab stab, more like, and okay, you're all dead. And this is
not allowed to shower anymore. AI, they're not even allowed to shout at her anymore.
No, and you weren't allowed to shout, and
cry.
And the thing is, I mean, she started crying anyway, even though, because she knew she fucked up. But I would literally, she should be shouted at, and they should be. And that footage of the IDF, that were like butchered in their beds. I mean, that footage should be shown, saying, "Listen, if you fall asleep,
Yep.
this is what happens. Everyone's dead.
Right.
Everyone's
Yeah.
dead."
See, they used to teach us that anyway, AI. When I joined the army in 1983, that was one of the first things they taught you, apart from never leave your rifle. And they taught it to you in a very literal manner that could sometimes involve a certain amount of violence. Because,
I mean,
soldiers
it's
have to
not-
face violence.
I mean, but the thing is, this goes back to ancient. I bet you there was probably a Roman, a Roman Hastati who fucked up, and was basically crucified or decimated for sleeping.
100%, mate. 100%. Yeah.
That
100%.
most well, actually, his entire cohort would be decimated, probably for something like that. More likely,
Which is
that
10%
happened.
of the cohort being killed. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it'd be decimated. But I mean, even we even back in all the way to ancient times, I did a stream with Alexander the Great. Even they had scouts and sentries and people on guard. This isn't like a new thing, and it's just the competency crisis. I go back to it. It's insane, because people they've just become like just these vegetables.
And our incompetence is getting greater and greater as they're lowering the requirements of what these people have to do to get into the military.
100%. Totally correct.
And like my ex,
sorry,
in
Ruffian Dick is saying, never met a squaddie who raided the IDF. Now, look, I'll say this. The IDF has always made a big deal about their girl soldiers. But as many people have pointed out, they never put them in frontline roles. They used to use them for their calendars and stuff like that. They never really put them in frontline roles. That was just pretending,
I always thought I don't know if they were the IDF then, but back in like the Arab-Israeli wars, they were quite competent in some capacity.
That was the IDF as well. Yeah, that was the
because I mean, they weren't like some. There weren't some like ragtag militia organization.
But the thing was, we were always told that the IDF used to draft like conscript women, but they never put them in frontline roles. They used the cute ones for calendars, and that was about it, really. And the rest of them ran radios and stuff.
I've seen photos
women
of
can
the
run
IDF
radios.
They can be nurses. Yeah. They can be doctors. They can do all kinds of things in the military.
There's loads of good things that women can do in the military, but killing people is not one of them.
Because the thing is that without even training them to be able to like handle violence, you can't even yell at them. Do you really think if they're captured that they're going to be treated really well? I mean,
I don't think so myself. I'm pretty sure I know what's going to happen to most cute girls who get captured in the front line. Pretty much.
Well,
I can't say the word on YouTube, but you know what I mean.
Yep.
But, I mean, you had that point we were talking about. I mean, a couple of years ago now. But those Ukrainian women, there was those that were being promoted by media, and it's like, okay, they're going to face like possible, like they're going to be up against like units of Chechen men.
Mm-hmm.
What are the Chechen men going to do to them if they're captured?
Yeah.
And some of them were captured. I mean, come on.
Right.
Yeah.
Look, Steve is completely correct here. The US used to have the Women's Army Corps. The Brits used to have the Women's Royal Air Force and the Wrens, which were the Women's Royal Naval Service.
Mm-hmm.
And they did support roles, which women can absolutely do. There's loads and loads of military roles that women can do, but they don't involve killing the enemy or getting killed yourself most of the time. Occasionally they do, but mostly not, and yeah, it's just, it's bullshit to pretend women are any good at this stuff. They're just not. I mean,
Well, so
maybe
many
like
people have to die
a
because
quarter
of these
of a
decisions.
percent off, you know?
Because people are going to die because of these decisions. I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to be our men.
Because they're going to be too confused. They're going to be too emotional.
They're going to hide in little
And
foxholes.
it's just bullshit. It really is.
I mean, on the sort of Israelis, I guess people have died. I mean, I would say, I mean, let's be realistic for a sec. If they had half competently trained, men on that wall, I don't think I don't think the attack would have been as big as it would have been for the Israelis.
Yeah, it wouldn't have succeeded so well. 100%.
No,
totally agree.
I mean, there may have been pockets of like those gliders and others got through, but it wouldn't have been. I mean, and this is the thing: you had IDF women, the women that were rounded up at other bits, along the wall, were then taken as
Hostages.
well. They were then hostages and
That's not good.
And this is the thing is, I mean, yeah, I mean, that sort of example. I mean, what it just showed was just the sheer, as someone said in chat, there was exactly 50 years after the surprise attack. There was some Jewish holiday, so yeah, I mean, yeah, that's right. I mean, then there's the other person. Well, was it competent?
I totally agree with you. Like, Mitch, what you got anything to add to this thing?
Yeah, I think. I think with the Yom Kippur War, that Golda Meir, who was the Prime Minister of Israel at the time, she actually knew the attack was going to happen, and she willfully let the units be under strength, so that they'd be surprise attacked. I mean, that gives Israel sympathy points. I won't be surprised if Israel did the same with a border with Gaza. I won't be surprised if they knew the attack was going to happen, but they wanted sympathy points from America.
Ruffy and Dick is saying much the same thing in the chat, and I don't totally disagree. I've got to say,
it's interesting because in the documentary, they did interview former IDF commanders, and that was sort of their reading on it, because it was all very, especially how far the Hamas fighters got in, and then you had when they launched the counter-attack against them, a lot of the bodies which were quite badly
they were casualties of Israeli attack helicopters and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of and there was a lot. I remember like people like your Ben Shapiro's were sharing of like, oh look, they set fire to the car with all these people in. It's like, actually that's a Mr. Shapiro. That's a shell kit. That's a shell in the roof of the car there.
There were homes though that were set on fire with families inside, and I saw a really good documentary interviewing this family, that a Jewish family, that this man lost his sister and her husband. The kids they managed to get, but they talked about how everybody has like a little safe room basically internally inside their house. And theirs is just their child's bedroom. It's not like a safe room the way we would imagine it, like the movie, right? But yeah, I mean, they talked about how they were just hidden in there for hours, just cowering over their little baby, and it was horrible. It was horrible. I also listened to one about a woman that was taken hostage for I don't know how many days. She was freed. It was terrible. It's terrible on both sides. But I think it's interesting how, no one wants, like Jordan, Egypt, all these other countries, they don't want the people from Gaza in their country. They're not taking them. They're not like volunteering to take them. And there's a reason for that, which I don't hear people talking about.
There really is. Yes.
Here,
good point, Aubrey. Thank you. There is a good point.
Well, they're very much in support of Hamas, which is a terror organization.
Well, no, if they go,
I mean, so does the IDF, but okay. The
Yeah, I mean,
IDF is also a terror organization, but okay.
I mean, we all know that they're going to be coming to the West anyway because it's already been, it's already been.
Oh, look, Biden's already been talking about sending Palestinians to Greece and Italy. AI.
Yeah, it's gonna. So that's.
I mean, why?
Yeah.
Why exactly? What on earth did Greece and Italy do bad to America? Or Israel for that matter? But yeah, apparently they did something bad because Biden wants to send those people there.
I do also have to ask because I don't know these things, but one thing I still think is just odd is, and I understand you is from the Israeli perspective, I guess, space and all that, but why do you have settlements so close to the wall with Gaza? With Gaza? I mean, because some of these
AI, it's because they want to take that wall down and they want all of their Arab population removed.
I mean, I understand. I understand that, but if I was like a Jew or something, I moved over to Israel, I would not. If I was with my family, I'd be like, I don't want to like live in a kibbutz which is like 100 meters from a wall where the other side there are millions of young armed. Because that's kind of, that's like that's. I mean, that's just asking for trouble, isn't it? Really.
Right.
Oh, look, the Gaza has been described as an open-air concentration camp, and it was pretty much that, to be honest. But yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Hey. But anyway, yeah, it was. It was pretty much that. That's my view on it. Anyway, maybe I'm wrong. However, I would like to say something that Aubrey can contribute to. So, what do we think about Donald Trump being convicted?
That was going to be my topic to bring up.
Be quiet. What can we say something about Donald Trump being convicted of a really, really made up felony in New York?
So can I discuss that for a moment?
Go for it, babes.
Okay, so yeah, Donald Trump. Oh my gosh. Facing 34 felony charges, which are not even actually truly felonies.
Yeah, they're all crap.
With a fine of at least it could be $5,000 for each charge, or 4 years for each charge, meaning he could go to prison for 134 years. But
Jesus.
yeah, which is insane, right? And then you get, and so now they're saying that, okay, so sentencing happens 4 days before the start of the Republican convention. Isn't that interesting? And they're saying that now 1 in 10 Republicans may still support Trump. Yeah.
I think it'll be much higher if they got any sense, but
I think so too. I do think so too. But so you had Trump, talking about this the judge being crooked, the trial being a sham, and Democrats being thugs, right?
All true.
And, right. But I'm not sure that's like a great thing to say when you're just about to have sentencing. Of course, he's going to appeal all this, and I think after the election,
it's a con. Aubrey, the whole trial was a con. All right.
Oh yeah. Oh, I have
Basically, he had sex with a porn star who was acting as a prostitute. Right. Oh my God, how terrible!
Who was
do you recall? Do you recall when Bill Clinton said, "I never had sex with that woman" because he was actually giving her a blowjob?
And didn't he go on?
And he paid $80,000. Sorry, $800,000 to shut her up.
Yeah.
Was there a trial? Was there a trial? I don't remember one.
I believe I remember. Now, I was pretty little at the time, but I believe I recall. What's his name? Going over the Clinton, going over the definition of "is," right? I mean, that's what he was like. He was arguing, which, I mean, it's ridiculous. But of course, he did not have sex with that woman.
No, he just spunked down her throat.
Right,
and
right.
paid
And
her
on her blue dress.
$800,000 to shut up.
And on her blue dress. But
know.
yeah, so here's
Awful.
Biden's quote, right? He says
My
the
my deal
justice.
is that spares a quiz. That's my deal. But anyway.
Oh my God. Really? You just said that. Biden
Yep,
says,
that's what I would say.
okay, the justice system should be respected, which I just want to laugh at. And we should never allow anyone to tear it down. It's as simple as that. That's America. That's who we are, says Biden. Which, you know, I mean, it's so ironic coming from the father of Hunter and
Under Biden,
one of the most
but
crooked men
snorting his
ever to serve.
cocaine from the buttocks of his 14-year-old Ukrainian girls.
Oh yeah. Yep. And all of their you know, behind the scenes deals with like the Czech Republic.
There's video of Hunter Biden snorting cocaine from little teenage Ukrainian girls.
Are they underage girls?
Yeah, there's pretty
much everyone thinks they are, babes. Yeah, everyone.
There's one image out there of him with one of the girls, like a very clear, like full body image, and
that's a little girl. It's a little girl. That ain't a woman. That's a little girl.
Why wasn't Hillary Clinton charged for everything she did? Why do we not see Biden being, you know, charged? I mean, it's ridiculous. And so, yeah, this is what they've got to get Trump on. But I think it's going to work in his favor. I really do, because I think it's getting people riled up.
I hope so. I
do.
I'd like. Can I just say to people, McIntyre just produced a video yesterday, I think, or the day before, and Oren McIntyre, I mean, he's just saying, like, Republicans in America these days, they've got to realize they're in a knife fight,
right?
And they have to start prosecuting Democrats.
Damn Republicans, they just don't freaking step up. I'm a very strong Republican. I have been my whole life, except when I said I was going to vote for Dukakis when I was in like 4th grade, and then my father had to talk with me. So, I mean, it was in my class like election thing, right, that I was going to vote for. But that was my only mistake there. But you know, they don't step up and play. I don't understand what. They've got to get strong. They've got to get tough here.
Yeah, it's like the Republican attitude has been we strongly disagree. We see this as a political motive, but we have to respect the court's decision.
Right, but we strongly disagree.
Yeah, and it's like no, you need the person come out saying we need to activate the Patriots. We need to cross the Delaware, and we're going to tie these maniacs to the Tarpeian Rock.
Right, right. Let's get the good old Southern boys going. You know,
100% AI. 100%. Yeah, it's just like, look, Oren McIntyre is pointing out quite correctly, like, this is worse than anything that happened prior to the American Civil War. You know, like, American presidents just do not get prosecuted for crimes. They don't. They just don't.
It is a symptom, though, of end stage republics, because I mean we all use the Rome example, but this did happen in the sense of towards the end of the Republican period, you know,
in ancient Rome,
proconsul figures would just use the law to try and arrest and kill their opponents instead of like transitions of power. And in America now, it's the same thing. It's either, you know, you must arrest your opponent, or I mean, well, depending on how you view Kennedy and how all that went, but you know, killing as well is also a thing. So, I mean, it's all, you know, it can't continue. So I do think I mean, I've stated that the regime need Trump because of what lies ahead and what I think they wanted to do, especially if they want to do war with Russia or Iran or whatever sort of
Trump's
neocon.
much more likely to stop that, in my
Right.
opinion.
I think he can deal with Putin.
I think Trump would actually not be in favor of starting a war with Russia or anyone else.
I don't think this would have even happened with the whole Ukraine thing had Trump been in office. I really don't. I don't think it would have played out the way it did.
No, I think Trump's a deal maker.
Right, that's where his skill is.
And he would much prefer to like say, look, I brought peace to this.
Right.
But the thing is that the establishment needs Trump and Trump's movement, like yourself, Audrey, and other people. White America. They need that group of people, the very large percentage of the population, basically back in the fold. And currently, Trump and his supporters are outside of it. Now, if they arrest him and try and do it that way, okay, it may fracture, but the movement would. I don't think. That would. I don't think that it could govern that way, because otherwise it would just straight up be, not self-segregation, but you would see like a breakdown on the community level on authority. So I do wonder, and we saw that predictive text talking, I think Morgoth talked about it as well, like that film Civil War, and we've talked about it as well, about the the predictive program, and that I do wonder if the way we talk about Civil War, second Civil War in America, it would be down on like not so much on the state lines, it would be more on the rural, urban, suburban lines.
Exactly.
And it would be more like the Spanish Civil War, in the sense that you would have like one sheriff's county, for example, would refuse to enact the will of like some dipshit Democrat governor, and it would just fracture from there, and you'd have a total breakdown of authority. That's how it would go down. It'd be a breakdown of authority, not like entire states declaring succession or this, that, or the other.
I mean, we had a trial run on this with Black Lives Matter, with the whole Michael Brown thing, which I live close to where that happened, and they were in the city. They were saying, "We're coming for you in the suburbs." People were frantically, where my dad lives, I mean, all these like white people who've never owned guns before, they're frantically going and buying ammunition and guns. It was scary, and we were getting like. We got flyers in the mail from the KKK, and I was just like, what the hell is happening here? And then look at the cities that were burned down not burned down completely, but like they were trashed by BLM. I mean, it's that's where it's going to happen. It's going to be, I agree with you. It's going to be urban versus suburban and rural.
Mitch, what's your opinion on this?
I don't know where. I mean, apparently, like if he were to go to prison over this, it'd still be bloody ages away, like, to a point where he can actually still do like the first presidential debate before he could potentially go to prison.
That cannot stop him from running as president. He could still do that, even if
I don't think he's going to go to prison. I think they may do house arrest if anything.
Maybe, you know what? I believe what Orrin McIntyre said, that if the Democrats and the lefties in America have any sense, they won't send him to prison. But as Orrin McIntyre said, and I think he's entirely correct, they don't have any sense. Do
you know though that he'll still have Secret Service agents protecting him if he goes to prison? In the prison,
I know,
that's going to be a nightmare for anybody.
Maybe it's a comedy. Like this is a South Park episode, basically. Right. It's a South Park episode. It really is. It's like
I mean, the other thing is this what we saw this week.
Hang on. I'm sorry. I was asking Mitch what he thought. And you can absolutely come in afterwards, mate. Mitch, what's your opinion on this?
Well, as I said, I just don't. I mean, America's like a situation where if they just carry on with this path of, oh yeah, we must arrest Trump, put him into prison, and we're doing Epstein on him. Oh, that's really just going to encourage a civil war akin to what you had in Spain. Because I mean, because that's the thing. You read about the Spanish Civil War, you notice that lots of the Phalangists, like the fascist party, they had like 0.7% of the vote or something like that. However, after the election, when you see these right-wing conservative figures get assassinated by the communists, what happens to the Phalangist party? Their membership skyrockets at 70,000 because all the young, like the conservative youth, because there was a Catholic conservative party called SEDA, whose youth wing all mass defected over to the fascists once they saw that there was no peaceful solution and they had to go towards
Mitch,
the civil war
Mitch, correct me if I'm wrong, but also in the Spanish Civil War, you had the commies going around raping nuns and executing priests and all that sort of stuff as well.
We know
I think that's correct.
Yeah.
Do you think
and also civilians?
Trump? I mean, do you think that that's something that would really happen?
I don't see how a Trump supporter looks at Trump getting Epstein and go, yeah, totally, this is a system we can live under. I don't see how you can live with that system. It's like, for example,
he's an old guy too, so like he could easily
actually. I'm Duke. This might tie in. Me and Mitch streamed the Hussite Wars, and a similar thing. You had this popular figure in 1400s Bohemia called Jan Hus, who was a religious reformer, and he very much captured the mood of the majority of the population in Bohemia who were Czech. It was done on nationalistic lines against the Germans, who were the Germans were like the minority, but they were the ruling, the ruling elite in the country at the time, in the kingdom. And Jan Hus was invited to the council of I forgot, was it not Clermont. I can't remember the council, but he was invited to a council which was to bring end to Western Schism and also address the heresy that he was accused of. And as soon as he got there, he was arrested and executed along with his companion Jerome of Prague. And in response, it kind of tipped the balance because there had already been like civil disorder among his followers. But this really tipped the balance, and this is what launched a like minor peasants' revolt, possibly even a bit of rioting, to actually organized on the ground armies fighting it out and kicking out large portions of the German ruling population, or as we also discovered, chucking them out of buildings in the mayor's palace, Council of Constance, thank you, mayor's palace in Prague, defenestration. So yeah, definitely this, and in that instance, he became like their martyr and figure, and it all launched from there. And I do think maybe with Trump or something that if they did that, yeah,
that's scary.
Fair enough. Mitch, anything you would like to add to that?
Well, yeah, that's pretty much my perspective. I just don't see a realistic scenario where a Trump supporter looks at Trump possibly going into prison because he stacked 34 charges. I believe one of the charges was, he overvalued some of the properties he was selling in New York. And I'm going, literally every state agent does that.
And he paid back more than what it was even worth. So no one lost money. No one. And that's a normal practice, I guess. But he paid back more than their values. So no one lost any money. The banks, if they had lost money, you think they wouldn't have gone after him? It's ridiculous.
100%. All right.
Yeah, so I think anyone with a brain cell realizes all this stuff against Trump is just a political hit
Yeah.
job, pretty much. Like anyone with a bloody brain
100%,
cell in
Mitch.
America.
100%.
So,
I mean, one of the
sorry,
go ahead.
Say, do we think that there's enough reasonable elements on the left in America who will actually temper it? Because at least over we've got Tony Blair who will acknowledge the shit lives over to be more measured about it. Whereas in America, I do
there
think
is not any reasonable elements on the left in America, and I don't think there really are in Britain either. But I mean,
we've got Tony Blair over.
I think that there is actually some. I don't know if Aubrey will know, but I sort of agree on this. But I do think there are elements on the Democrat side who believe that they can rid Trump and like free the Republicans in their own minds. That is, free the Republicans of Trump, and you could all come back under, and it would just be like when McCain and Obama were on stage, all hugging and kissing each other, or something, or whatever they did. There are some Democrats who still believe that they can get to that, but of course, all of you guys have been on the path for what 8 years now. That world is gone. That world is gone. We had lockdowns, but there's so much has happened. There's been BLM. That.
All the transgender stuff pushed on us. All this stuff with the left. It's just bullying.
Yeah, they that world is gone, and and as we talk about Spanish Civil War, I mean, yeah, the Phalangists and others, the actual fascistic parties, organizations were, when I say minority, I mean they were just straight up very, very small, like 0.7. But when the chips are down, in America's case, I can tell you now, the Republican Party will evaporate into nothing, and the Democrat Party may also, maybe not because of the power that they hold, but the in that scenario, center right parties, they have nothing left to offer. They have, because there's nothing they can offer, and everything else and the alternatives will come through.
And they're getting to all of our university students so badly. My cousins who have just recently graduated, one of them from grad school, I mean, my God, they've grown up in this very strong Republican family, with a grandfather who was a pilot in World War II, right? And oh my gosh, I'm so glad my grandpa isn't alive to see them today, because I love debating with them. And we actually have some pretty good debates, but it's crazy. They're just so brainwashed. So brainwashed.
All right, and that's going to bring us on to our last topic. And our last topic is we seem to be drifting aimlessly into a war with Russia that we're not going to win. Ukraine is the most corrupt nation in the entire world, pretty much. Like, you'd find it very hard to find a more corrupt nation in the world than Ukraine.
I can name one. I can name one. I mentioned it earlier on stream.
Which one? Which one? Which one?
Well, it's the one that some neocons will be angry if I mention, but.
Well, give me a clue, mate. I have no clue. Which one?
Okay, it's the one which likes to do a bit of mixed gender units.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of those, but yeah. All right.
Yeah, he was talking
all
about
right.
that.
Look. This is not the point of this last section today. We are drifting aimlessly into a war with Russia. Like, the French Foreign Legion have sent more troops into Ukraine. I can very easily see Britain and America sending more troops into Ukraine. We're all allowing the Ukrainians to fire weapons deep into Russia, and they don't kill Russian military dudes. They kill women and children and babushkas, which is Russian for little old ladies. I'm sorry, but Putin keeps saying, like, I have a limit, and if you keep carrying on with this, I am going to retaliate. Why does nobody believe him?
Oh, I think we should definitely believe him at his word.
I think we should, because the thing is, if Putin is seen as too weak, he will not survive as Russian leader. And there are many worse Russian leaders we could get, you know? And you know what? Is Ukraine one of the most corrupt nations in the world under the rat king Zelensky? Is that really worth millions of civilians, including many women and children, being killed in nuclear war? I mean, what on earth are our leaders thinking? It's insane. Like, Russia's got the biggest nuclear arsenal in the world, and we're really going to do that, are we? Because we think, oh, Putin won't do it? It's insane to me, guys. It's just utterly insane to me. But I'm going to ask Mitch to say what he thinks first.
But
Mitch is
Putin
a
hasn't
Russian
exactly helped
speaker.
himself though with his. I don't think Putin's helped himself though with. He puts in these red lines, but never actually enforces them. So when he sees Western weapons striking the city of Belgorod, which is de jure Russian territory, not even like it's not in Donbass, it's actually within internationally recognized Russian borders.
Yeah, it's in real Russia. Yeah. It's in real Russia, Mitch. It's in real Russia, Mitch. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's what I said.
But they're not even striking Russian military units. They're just killing Russian civilians, women and kids. That's all they're doing.
Yeah, and I don't see. And Putin, right? He retaliates against Ukraine, but he won't retaliate against us because, at the end of the day, look, Russia's final warning these days is like China's final warning. If you know what that China's final warning meme is, which is, look, I can respect. I mean, Putin is not political that I'm particularly fond of these days, mainly because, he just, he'll say, oh, well, don't cross his red line or else. And he only does it towards Ukraine, but he won't retaliate towards us because he doesn't want nuclear war. And I go, okay, but that gives open license for our side of things, because our elites are morons.
I don't believe that, mate. I think he will retaliate eventually.
Yeah,
if I was him, Mitch, if I was him,
I bet you were right.
I would first retaliate with a conventional weapon on a British military base. And if that didn't work,
I don't think Russia would do anything in terms of going against the West. I think he'll retaliate against Ukraine.
I'm not sure you're right, mate, but all right.
Well, you got more faith in Putin than I do. I don't really like him, so you got more faith in him than I do.
You don't really like
No,
Putin?
he doesn't like Putin. No, he doesn't like Putin.
I didn't know that.
No, I don't. I'm not really a big fan of him. Yeah,
he doesn't think he's strong enough.
I see.
It's not that. I mean, it's not just that. I mean, so after that terror attack in Moscow, he didn't you get some Cherkasses who can be deported, but you didn't see a mass deportation as what a nationalist would do. And that's the thing, like the problem with Russia, they've still got mass immigration, just in a different way. It's not like a hatred of doing it for, it's because of corruption and whatnot. And there's a lot of corruption. I mean, lately there was some military generals who were arrested for corruption. But I'm sitting there thinking, plenty of these Russian military bloggers have been telling of it since like January last year. And it's only now that something's being done. So I just think Putin's one of these guys. He's very slow to act when he sees military corruption, because a lot of it he didn't have it fester for the sake of securing his own power base. Let's say 20 odd years ago. It's only nowadays he's catching up on it because it has posed some military problems, like in Ugledar, January last year, where the general who really buggered up that assault was an ethnic Chechen who was partly with Kadyrov, so Putin couldn't get rid of him for political reasons. It's only now that he's been gotten rid of because Putin he's got that deal with the Chechens, so that's why I'm not so big a fan of Putin as I was, let's say, a year ago, for argument's sake. Because, sorry, I really do regard like that sort of incompetence in terms of cleaning up corruption on a very high scale. Should I say? It's like, I mean, that's why I dislike Trump's first term, because he didn't clean up the corruption. Like, he just didn't do as much as was needed.
No, Mitch, I think your point of view is completely fair, but you're extremely tough on Putin. Like, but I think there has to be a limit to how far the West can push Putin before he says, yeah, we have to retaliate. I really do. Because your argument at the moment, Mitch, is that it's kind of the NATO, US, British, Western argument that, no, we can do anything we like to Putin and he won't retaliate. And I think eventually he's going to be forced to. I think there is a final red line that Putin can't go over, because if he doesn't, he won't stay leader of Russia. But that's just me, and I may be wrong. But
for example, the Ukrainians did a strike on Belgorod, so the power generators near the city of Lvov were knocked out. So Putin will retaliate against Ukraine, but he won't retaliate against America or Britain. Like I
wonder about that, mate. I really wonder if you're right about that. I think there may come a limit. I think there may.
I mean, the only thing that could be done for that, what was it, Russia, Iran, China, is if they all agreed that if that was to happen, China invades Taiwan, opens a front up in the Pacific, and Iran, through their allies, go after American bases and maybe even Israel in the Middle East, and have like three fronts, so the West would be crippled. That's the only thing that they could do.
We would lose a war like that for sure. Like the American,
I mean that's
because when I say we, like 90% of it is the Americans, and the other 10% is everybody else. So except in the Pacific, where it is a bit more even, because the American Navy would absolutely depend on the Japanese and Australian navies, and eventually the Royal Navy. But that's slightly different. It's a slightly different kind of war, which actually the West has more chance of winning. Like a land war in Ukraine, there's no chance of us winning a land war in Ukraine. Never going to happen. The only thing that could happen for us fighting a land war in Ukraine is like nuclear death for everybody. Brits, Americans, Russians, Canadians, French, Germans, Ukrainians, everyone just dies in a nuclear bullshit story, which you can't win. You just can't win that kind of war.
So they say they have a think tank close to the Kremlin that says Russia should consider a demonstrative nuclear explosion.
Yeah.
That's lovely. Lovely to think about.
Well, Steve asked in the chat, how big an army could Europe support in Ukraine? And the truth is, like, not even 100,000 men. Not even 100,000 men.
Well, you get all of us women in there. I'm kidding. That was a joke.
And Dostastic,
hypothetically,
makes the best comment of the whole stream. Well, at least we have our secret weapon, Primo aircraft carrier commanders. Yes, exactly. Well done, Dostastic.
I mean,
that's the best comment of the whole chat. But yeah.
I mean, I guess
Sorry,
if Russia was in this scenario, if like the Russia, Iran, and China were to launch nukes or to do the nuclear option, let's just say they all did the nuclear option. I mean, yeah, it would destroy the world, but it would solve the demographic problem in the West.
Oh my god! Please. Oh
And
my god!
it would solve
It would-
the it would solve the fucking
Zionist problem in
economic
the West.
migrants. They wouldn't be coming here anymore.
Oh, that's
No,
terrible.
I mean, it
economic
would solve the
migrants if you're
demographic.
a nuclear wasteland, you know.
I mean, it would solve the demographic, the Zionist problem. It would solve a multitude of problems.
Yeah, that's true. That's
yeah.
true. Oh God.
I can think of a couple of
That's
places
why
I one of those weapons.
that's why I have that image of that parking inspector from Threads. You remember that Iron Duke Threads?
Yeah, vaguely I do actually, but yeah, I was never my favorite film. I didn't think it was very accurate, but whatever. Anything you would like to show AI?
No. Yeah, I've got on my channel. I mentioned it earlier. Is the Hussite Wars? I'm going to do a part 2. Possibly next week. Iron Duke would be great to have. Mitch as well. I know
very little about the Hussite Wars, mate. Honest.
Well, it's all talking about
if you want me on a military history stream, you have to get me on a British military history stream. Otherwise, I'm not going to be great. But yeah.
Well, you talk about like battles like with the war wagons and all that sort of stuff. So it's it's the Hussite Crusades. I think there's like 4 or 5 of them. We did like the first 2. I mean, the rest of them are just basically like war wagons turning up and fighting and ensuing and back and forth.
Good way of stopping knights. It's a good way of stopping knights on horseback. It is.
Oh yeah, decimating heavy cavalry. It's insane.
It's not a good way for heavy cavalry because they're not going to. What do they do? They can't do anything basically.
Yeah, and bearing in mind this was like they had mass use of the Hussites or the Taborites faction of the Hussites managed to get hands of these hand cannons as well. So you had crossbowmen and hand cannons on these reinforced war wagons. I mean, you basically got a tank.
Yep, pretty close. So yeah, go and check out AI Shia Tori. That is AI's channel. Go and check him out. Mitch, anything you would like
Mr.
to? Sorry, carry on, AI.
Sorry, I was just Mr. Gently Benevolent and this comment there, bombed out, nuked out London, and he comes out like a ghoul from Fallout, and it's like, not to worry, my fellow British people, I have a plan for this war after mutant cabbage production of 0.3%.
That's funny.
That's true. Anything you would like to plug, Mitch?
Nah, not for me.
All right, mate. Aubrey, I can only say she would absolutely like to plug her excellent over 16-and-a-half-year-old dog,
Jasper,
who is a beagle German Shepherd, we suspect.
But he hates German Shepherds, so there's a problem.
He brings down German Shepherds.
He takes them down. I can't take him into PetSmart anymore.
Yeah. Aubrey's dog, Jasper, is actually known for taking down German Shepherds who are twice his size. But, he's an exceptionally brave dog and one of the keenest brains in Doctor. All right. Thank you very much to my guests, Aubrey, Jasper, AI, and Mitch.
Thank you.
And we will see you next week, guys. And don't let the bastards grind you down.